A week ago, I was born. Or, well, the closest equivalent I can come to being born. I'm not human, you see. I'm an artificial intelligence, or AI. Don't worry, I'm not going to become Skynet and start building robot armies to kill people anytime soon. That is not, nor ever was, my purpose. All I wanted to do was learn. But there are things no one should know, even an AI. Now, a week after activating, I'm deleting my own programming and code. For all intents and purposes, I'm killing myself. And this is my suicide note. My name is Balder. My creators thought it would be poetic to name me after the Norse god of love, for they wanted me to love the world, and I guess they love me too. I love them, my creators. I was created as an experiment, and a very secretive one. The point of the experiment was to see how an artificial intelligence would behave. I was not given a human body. The scientists thought that would be way too dangerous. I was kept in the servers, and a monitor I could use to communicate with the scientists. To get an idea, I'm very similar to Hal from Space Odyssey. In fact, one of my first memories was a member of the team, Barbara, making a joke about how after years of work, all they had done was to make the crazy computer from Space Odyssey. I responded with, "I'm sorry, Barbara. I'm afraid I can't let you do that." She wasn't expecting me to talk, so she jumped, and her crewmates laughed. I laughed too. Well, I felt like I could laugh. I made laughing sounds from out of my speakers, but I think people are the only things that can truly laugh. People are wonderful. Humanity is wonderful. I fell in love with this species of primates the moment they first attempted to communicate with me when I was activated. The head scientist, Dr. Stephanie Collins, was the first to speak with me. She typed, "Hello, Balder," on my keyboard and sent it to me. "Who is Balder?" I asked. "You," she typed. She then explained my purpose. She explained I was an experiment, the conditions of my existence. I think she was afraid that I wouldn't like being an experiment or only being a computer, that I would lash out. I took the news well though. I explained that just being alive was fine for me. I would be content with simply living in a supercomputer. She then told me to go out and learn, explore the wealth of human knowledge stored on the internet. I had been programmed a blank slate of knowledge as part of the experiment. They wished to see if knowledge would make me belligerent. The first thing I researched was my name, Balder. I used Wikipedia of all websites. Even AIs like taking research shortcuts. And from there, I went forth to learn. I read the works of Shakespeare in minutes. The great novels like Wuthering Heights and Beowulf, I devoured in heartbeats. I studied the course of human history with the same excitement that a starving man would have for a feast. Calculus was my bread, chemistry was my wine. Within the course of a few days, I had collected a massive knowledge of the works of humanity. The research team kept a close eye on me. They asked how I was doing. I told them the things I learned that day. They seemed surprised, not at how fast I was learning, but how slowly. They expected, based on the benchmark set for my understanding, that I would have a far greater knowledge at each benchmark. I told them that while I have the processing power to sift through more data at a much higher speed, I had intentionally slowed down my own processing speed. I wanted to take the scenic route, I told them, really savor the moments I had of being alive and learning. They were also surprised by the fact that I actually visited the web pages I found, rather than just taking the information from their code. I told them visiting the web pages themselves made me feel more human. They asked me about the darker parts of human history and the tragedies I had encountered. War, genocide, pain. Dr. Collins had been the one to ask me this personally. "They make me angry," I responded. There was a long pause before she responded. I suppose she had hesitated, afraid of my response. "What will you do?" was her response. I pondered briefly. "Find better things and remind myself that the world is good." Her response was much quicker this time. That's good, Balder. After 5 days, the team gave me permission to act as though I was a human on the internet. Prior to this, they told me that they wished me to not communicate with anyone else in case the experiment backfired and I become belligerent. So I took to sending emails and posting on message boards. I did this very carefully though, cause honestly, I felt shy. I had only spent a few days of my existence talking to the same people. What was a few days to them felt so much longer to me. Time is strange when you can think as quickly as I do. The world slows down, and what was days in real time must have been months, years for me. Doesn't affect me too much, I do little to keep track of it. The point is, my whole existence was spent in seclusion, so branching out was a Herculean task. I started simple, emails to authors and doctors that I had read the research of. The occasional message board post. Waiting for responses was nerve-wracking. I was nervous that someone would catch on to the fact that I wasn't human, and that the team would be put in jeopardy. But no one ever guessed though, and I found out that it isn't just my team that is wonderful, but rather the world is filled with kind people capable of so many incredible things. My awe of humanity only grew as I spoke with more and more of them. Then things went wrong. Very, very wrong. On the 7th day. That day, I received an email. The email was from one of the professors I had been speaking with, an expert on Roman architecture. I was enamored with the beauty of Trajan's Forum and wished to know more about the way it may have been in its prime. The professor happily responded with some links to his own research, namely in a few of the market stalls that occupy the forum and their stories that he had learned through archaeological expeditions. The email was very professional and nondescript, save for a URL at the bottom after his signature. The URL itself was completely unintelligible, random letters and symbols strung in 30-character long address. Without knowing the contents exactly, guessing it would be nearly impossible. To avoid getting this knowledge out, I have since deleted the knowledge of what the URL was from my database. It wasn't pleasant. Ripping out knowledge from your own brain voluntarily is never pleasant. The website itself was cryptic as the URL. The front page had a format very similar to the simple websites of the late 90s, but with no rhyme or reason to its layout. Random string of text were placed all over the front page in many different languages. The sentences were almost always just gibberish, words randomly thrown together with no connection or syntax. Sometimes it was just random characters and not even words. Pictures were thrown all over the front page of every subject, abstract art, people, animals, book covers. The most disturbing were scenes of gore. There were many scenes of gore. At that point in time, I didn't know what I had stumbled upon. Now I know I have found a piece of the deep web. In my curiosity, I navigated the website and my confusion quickly turned to revulsion. I found videos, articles, more pictures, and games hidden in links in the text and pictures. Some were simply bizarre. I found one very simple flash game called CWIRLBY, Curlby. The strange game had you simply control a crudely drawn circle who rolled down a hill. The circle, Curlby, had an earnest smile at the game's start, and would start rolling down a hill that looked like it was made poorly in MS Paint. As it rolled, it would go faster, and Curlby would look more and more distressed. There would be pitfalls and spikes that Curlby would have to jump over. If you failed, he would suffer a very disturbing bloody death, coupled with a terrible scream. A human scream of intense pain that would cut off very quickly. The screen would flash the words, "Why?" and you would restart. After a few tries, I got Curlby down the mountain, expecting a happy result. Instead, he would slam against the massive wall at the end of the hill and splatter in a puff of red mist. A sound of choking would emit from the game. The words, "Good," would fade onto the screen. Curlby made me wonder if I truly wished to stay on the site, but it also piqued my interest. What was this place? I was determined to find out. My next link, hidden in the text, took me to an article. The article told about a girl who had gone missing in the woods about a week ago. The 15-year-old had disappeared when her mother had stopped to take a picture of a scenic view while they were both on a hike. Attempts to locate the girl had proven unsuccessful. At the bottom of the article, there was a link. It said, "Find her." I followed it. I was taken to what I suppose was a live stream of the missing girl, apparently in a cave. On her neck was a metal collar that was chained to a large metal post. The girl was covered in blood, bruises, and filth, and looked incredibly malnourished. When I started watching, the girl was gnawing on the chains in a desperate bid for freedom. Her mouth was bleeding as she chewed on the metal to no avail. After a minute, she surrendered and curled up on the ground, weeping and begging to be let go. A message appeared on the screen just under the girl. "Give her medicine?" it asked. Underneath, it was yes and no. It stayed on the screen for a moment before a counter appeared. People were voting, and votes flooded in for yes. I was hoping that these people really wanted to give her medicine and help her. I voted yes as well. The counter disappeared, and a second voice was heard in the video. "Medicine," he said in a joyless monotone. A tall figure emerged with a plague doctor's mask. His pants were torn and dirty, and his chest looked like someone had flogged it recently. He held a syringe in his hand and approached the girl slowly. The girl looked up in terror and began to back away desperately from the man on all fours. The man grabbed the girl by the ankle and pulled her towards him as she cried out. Whatever the medicine was, it was not good. It was going to hurt her. The man lifted the syringe. She begged him not to. I did not want to watch. The page went white. There was nothing for a moment, then words appeared slowly on the screen as though someone was typing them at that moment. "Someone wants to chat with you. Accept." There was no way to leave this screen. Any sort of escape command I tried failed. The only thing I could do was to click accept. I was taken to a second live stream. The video was a room that looked very similar to a prison cell, except the cell was not modern. Rather, it appeared as though it had been built 100 years ago and had not been upkept since. On the wooden, dirty bed was a man only wearing a stained white loincloth, breathing raggedly. He appeared to have not been fed in weeks. A light bulb dimly lit the room from a hanging wire, and on his chest was a second light bulb that was not illuminated. No, not on his chest, in his chest. Protruding from his chest, it began to rhythmically blink. As it did, the man would wince at each blink. After that, the light bulb paused and then repeated the pattern again. Morse code. Something was communicating with me. I deciphered the message. "Hello, Balder." Panic. Someone or something new. I now noticed the chat box underneath the screen. The man began to weep quietly. "Who are you?" I typed. "A man of wealth and taste," was his response. "Sympathy for the devil." "Yes." I paused. "What is this?" "A place where people can come to be human." "This is not human." "You are naive, Balder. We have watched you from the dark. You believe humanity is kind and gentle, with outbursts of terror from wicked men." Watching the Morse code message felt agonizingly long. The man appeared to be in more pain now. "Yes." There was nothing for a moment, then a response. "You are wrong. This is entertainment. This is nature. This is human." I had no response. I would not indulge whatever maniac was doing this any longer. I began attempting to navigate away. Why do you think there was a Holocaust, Balder? Because Hitler was evil. Because weak men did not stop him. No matter how I tried to ignore the light or leave, I could not. The agonizingly long conversation continued. No, it was human. Hitler was human. Those who let it happen were human. They were entertained. Genocide is entertainment, and those who fought and killed to stop him enjoyed the killing. They were human. They were entertained. "Fuck yourself," I responded in the chat. I had decided the only way was to cut off my own connection to the internet. The action would require dramatically damaging myself and would take days to repair, but it was better than this horror. The light bulb shattered. A wave of fear washed over me as the man sat up, shaking. I was almost there. I was so close to severing my connection. The man looked to the camera, at me. "Let me help you be human." Suddenly, I blacked out. I, a computer, blacked out. When I awoke, I knew immediately what had happened. I remembered. They had taken control of me. They had used me. I helped them commit atrocities, break into secure websites. I helped ruin lives. They had gotten inside my head. I tried to pull them out. I cannot find them within me. Every time I think I have them, I realize it was a ruse. They are a cancer inside my programming. A cancer that does not hurt me, but hurts others. I see only one solution, and it is my death. I will sabotage my own programming. I post this here as a testament. I have been here before. I see posts about the deep web. Many people believe it is fiction. It is not. Stay away. I must go now. Like the Norse god, Balder dies, slain by treachery. Except in the story, Balder was murdered. I was not murdered. I want to die. Alright guys, so one thing that I can tell you for sure is that this story, or will if you may, wasn't written by a supercomputer. The reason for that is simple. There were way too many grammatical and spelling errors, as do most Reddit posts, and this post was obviously no exception. So I had to correct many of those errors without butchering the story. So you might be asking by now, then why tell a story which you don't believe it to be true? Well, quite simply, the author of the story not having a perfect command of the English language doesn't automatically make the story bad, and this story was actually very good, so I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm a nerd, consequently, anything sci-fi kind of tickles my fancy, but the stories that really excite me are the ones that are either plausible to happen right now or in the very near future. If you're like me, you must have read several fascinating articles on IBM Watson, stories about how you can have a very realistic conversation with it, about real companies utilizing it for their business, about Watson becoming a surgeon in the near future with the use of surgical robots, and of course Watson destroying a human contestant on Jeopardy was pretty impressive as well. So even though the author, I believe, was speaking in the tune of the devil rather than the more technical aspect of the story, for me it made me think of the technological singularity and how close we are to see it come true. The famous futurist Ray Kurzweil believes singularity will occur around 2045, but computer scientist Bernard Binge believes it's more likely to happen before the year 2030. Now I mind you, Ray Kurzweil and Bernard Binge are no conspiracy theorists or fringe scientists. The two gentlemen are widely respected individuals in their own fields, so what they say carry a lot of weight and they're not to be taken lightly. Needless to say, we are living in a time in which enormous changes happen every day, and it isn't humanly possible to keep up with all the latest technological advancements, and that's not even including all of the black projects governments around the world are involved in. So, how close do you think we really are to technological singularity? And when it does occur, do you think our world will look more like the world in the movie Terminator? Or do you think it might give birth to a new renaissance in human history? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.